Welcome to today's episode of What to Say and How to Say It, the podcast to help you fix your marriage. I'm Shy Lewis. I'm here with Nina Roesner. Our mission is to help you, Christian married man or woman, navigate conflict and build connections so you can have a thriving marriage. So today we are talking power and partnership. We're going to discuss 3 ways where you can balance your marriage and your ambition without losing you and your spouse. Um, this is a pretty relevant topic to what's happening in the culture. We are seeing marriages with high-powered execs and business owners just not make it. We're even seeing this in the church. We're seeing pastors even struggle with maintaining their marriages. And, a lot of that can be contributed to the time spent away from the home. And so we want to discuss what it looks like to do the opposite, have a successful marriage, and also have a thriving business and ministry at the same time. So welcome, Nina. I'm excited to talk to you about this
Oh, I
topic.
think it's a great topic. People that are entrepreneurs, business owners, their marriages fail at 10 points on average higher than the average failure rate. So that's indicative of this is harder than what's already hard. So I think it's great that we're taking a look at it today.
Absolutely. Marriage is already hard, but then you add, scaling a business, building a ministry to that. That's kind of next level, right? So before we get started, I want to direct you to our website, greaterimpactlives.org. This is where you can find a free PDF. It's called 5 Tools for How to Stop Walking on Eggshells. We also have a marriage assessment for you to check out. Take it and then let us know. We'll reach out to you and maybe discuss coaching or anything else you might be interested in. All right. So, Nina, you recently made a TikTok reel that kind of addresses this topic. And I thought, yeah, that's a good one, which is kind of why I kind of put this together. I hope you don't mind I stole your idea. But
It's
it was
relevant.
great. You kind of discussed this thing that, we see in marriages, and I think it's happening more and more today because we have 2 income homes. Women are just as ambitious as men. We see social entrepreneurship happening as well. Even if you're a stay-at-home wife, there's the opportunity to build business at home with remote work. So there's so many things pulling you away from your marriage when you look at all of these things. Um, is it even possible uh, to be successful when you're doing a lot, your spouse is doing a lot, and let's just add kids into the mix. Um, is it even possible to be successful and have it all, as they say?
So, no, absolutely not. You cannot have it all.
Yeah.
That is a big, fat, hairy lie. So here's the deal. If you are running your own company, your kids are not going to see you as often as they could if you were working a 9 to 5 where you're commuting to your job and punching out. If you're a stay-at-home mom that's working also, right?
Mhm.
You're not going to be there 24/7 for your kids. If you're a full-time working mom, you're
Mhm.
like you can the gal that's the CEO of PepsiCo and years ago said this, you can't do both. Somebody's going to miss out, and usually it's your children. And that's a problem because the culture needs children. Like we're in a place in Europe where they're not having enough kids to continue their culture. Their culture is going to die as a result of the lack of the British people bearing children. Japan is looking at the same thing. So when you have that as a problem, what are we doing instead while we're working? There's a lack of honor given to stay at home and raise all these children as a career. And the government in the United States kind of started that trend because some very smart, and I say that without it meaning to be a compliment, but they were ill-intentioned to get more taxpayers. So they enticed women into the workforce and denigrated staying home. And so that's what's happened. And most women want to be the ones to pick up their kids when they're sick. They
Mhm.
want to be the ones to show up at the performances. We bond differently to our children than men do. And so we have that heartache over it. And if you don't spend the time when they're babies, you lose that oxytocin bond. It's a problem in our culture. And at the same time, and I sound like I'm, some you know, historic, whatever, those matriarchal crazy ladies that, is just, you should only do this, barefoot and pregnant. It's like, no, I've always worked. I did raise children and homeschool and work all at the same time. And right, wrong, or whatever, I did the research to find out how many hours can I be away without damaging my kid. And thank God this is the only good thing that's come out of COVID, more stay-at-home jobs. Uh, so we're able to do things from home and raise a family and have that balance. It creates other problems for sure, but you cannot be a business owner or the CEO of a corporation without it costing your family.
Yeah.
Same thing with military work, firefighting work, police work. Those are high intensity, demanding kinds of things. And if you've married an entrepreneur or you are one, you know that you're a special kind of crazy
Mhm.
because, and I'm one too. I started Greater Impact over 20 years ago.
Mhm.
Uh, you see something and you cannot help but create it. And you're the only person in the world that knows that it's real and it exists. Everybody else is like, that that's not real. That there's nothing to touch here. And it's like, no, it is. It's coming. Nobody believes you until you prove it. And that's the thing is that's the motivating factors. You really have to go create and prove that. And the energy around that, it's a drive, almost an obsession. It might be a mental illness. I don't know. Um, but if you're not really, really conscious
Yeah.
about the decisions that you're making, and you don't put your family first, and you're not clear with your spouse about what that actually means, then everybody loses. Everybody loses.
Yeah. 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 So, okay, let's look at your example. You said usually it works better if you have one parent, the wife typically that kind of handles the home turn.
Yeah,
Um, if her husband is an entrepreneur and he's got all these responsibilities and projects and deadlines and goals and ambition, um, how does she not become resentful? Because I could see how
right.
it's this thing where you're like you want to support your spouse with their dream, but you see the dream pulling away from home and
Mhm.
from marriage. What are some things you suggest for her or him? Let's say it's
Yeah.
the wife building and the man feels neglected, the husband feels neglected. How do you just avoid becoming resentful? Because I feel like
Yeah.
that's kind of where it starts, where the marriage is like starting to break down a little bit.
Oh, definitely. And there's a lack of awareness for what she's going through.
Mhm.
And probably because she's not communicating about some of that, or when she does, she's using complaint, as a method of communicating about it. You never do this, and you're always blah, blah, blah. And then that sets things up for her to be in the role of his mother and the business to be the other woman,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And that's like I talk to so many people, and it's ranchers, it's police and farmers and entrepreneurs and firefighters. And the wives say, I didn't sign up for this. Military, I didn't sign up for this. Like
Mhm.
he's gone all the time. I didn't. And that's the thing is none of us know what we're getting into when we get married.
Mhm.
I think wives of people in this classification of husbands have it harder for sure. So you're going to get more opportunity to combat resentfulness. And the
Mhm.
only way to combat resentfulness is with gratitude.
Mm.
Yeah. So, the mindset of the men or the woman is usually there's this thing that God's asked me to do, and it's a drive,
Mhm.
it's a push within them. And then with men, the data says very clearly that this is how they love. They provide for their families.
Mhm.
And then they have the burden of payroll for other people as well. So it's a
Mhm.
mindset that is really rooted in serving other people. If there's any high profile to it, it's even easier for wives to get resentful because you can think, well, you're just doing that so that you're somebody. But the truth is that most of the time it doesn't have anything to do with that.
Mm.
Fame is shallow. Those that have it will admit to that. There's no great reward in being famous. No, nobody does that. The reward comes from serving the people around you and helping your families, make a living and those kinds of things. It's also highly stressful. So in her situation, she's in a great position if she can learn to speak the language of respect, to have influence with her husband, to say, hey, we're going to create a family also,
Mhm.
and we need to talk about what does that look like.
Mhm.
Joey's going to play soccer this year. You need to be at some of those games. Not
Mhm.
all of them. I'll be at all of them.
Mhm. Mhm.
But you need to come to some. So let's get them on your calendar. And that right there is a big key thing, is if it gets on his calendar, usually it'll happen
Yeah.
because entrepreneurs are run by their calendar. It dictates their life, what they do all day long. So,
Yeah. That's a good point. And that's actually one of the ways you can maintain that balance is just scheduling
mhm.
the time
Yes.
that you devote to your family and having boundaries around that time the same way you have boundaries around meetings
Mhm.
at work. A weekly date night where anybody else is off limits. Nobody can
Yes.
touch that time of the week
Yep.
with your spouse. And even between you two, not having your phone on,
Yes.
just having like an agreement that nobody's checking text messages or taking
Mhm.
calls during this time period. What are your thoughts around that?
I think that's 100% reasonable. And let's give a little bit of grace for the first 2 years of the business because most businesses fail in the first 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to make it successful, you're you're on it every little thing that's happening as an entrepreneur. You have your fingers in all of it. You're on customer contact, even if it's 10 o'clock at night. And you have to be, unfortunately, because you have nothing. You're building something. After you survive the first 2 years, to make it to 7 years, you got to start implementing systems and starting to take care of yourself and your family and those things. And the money should start rolling in at this point. If it doesn't, you're not doing something right. Like if you survive 2 years and you're not making money, like there's a bigger problem. You need some advisors on how to handle the business finances. And it's astonishing to me how many entrepreneurs do not know how to manage money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they literally gut the business on credit, grow too fast, don't hire people to do things that they shouldn't be doing that they could hire somebody to do. They don't look at the resources they have and spend that. Like as an entrepreneur, you need to initially you start out doing literally everything, and then you move into a space where you need to do the things you're good at and let other people pick up some of those other things. And it's hard to figure out how much to pay yourself and all those kinds of things. But if you can sort that properly, and there's tons of books out there on how to do that, there's classes you can take, lots of mentors. SCORE is a organization that's in every city in America, and it's a bunch of retired people that love to coach businesses. That's what they do. I think it's free. At least it was when I started Greater Impact. Um, so you go and you get advice all the time. And that's what the Bible tells you to do. One of the things that if the marriage can survive the first couple of years, which it usually does, Um, and then the money starts pouring in. The wife needs to make some decisions for herself to protect herself from that resentment. Like
Mm,
hire a housekeeper so that you're not exhausted because you're the one that's on, you're working.
mm,
Well, 5:30, is that when your youngest gets up? Maybe till 11 o'clock when the oldest goes to bed, finally. You know, those are
yeah,
some pretty long hours.
yeah.
Teenagers don't want to talk until after it's dark for some reason. And you know, you got to run people to carpool and you got all these things you have to that you're doing. And you want to
Mm,
be doing those things. You got to maintain joy in it. Spend the money. That's my biggest piece of advice in this space is find a way, either spend the money or hook up with some other entrepreneurial wives. You know,
mm,
see if your husband's got customers that are in the same boat. You can become friends with some of those wives. And if you can keep a good separation between the business, so you're not gossiping about your husband, to these wives, right? If you can
right.
have those boundaries, then you guys can trade childcare. You can, get together and, take everybody to the pool and share some responsibility, form some groups. There's all sorts of opportunity for that. And if you're not taking care of yourself in that space, then your marriage is going to come apart. That's just going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. What about on the other side of the coin? What if you are the entrepreneur? I mean, there was a big story that came out this week where this high tech entrepreneur, or I don't know if he's an entrepreneur, I think he's just an executive, but
Yeah, he's
he,
your CEO.
yeah, was just busted like big time
Uh-huh.
with,
Yeah.
you know, his coworker. And I think that's also one of the concerns we see a lot with spouses of entrepreneurs or high profile execs. Is there a way to, you know, uh, I don't know if she can really do anything, but from the entrepreneur side, how do you prevent something like that? Like, is there
Yeah.
something that they can do from their side to ensure that they're not looking for the work wife or the work husband, and that they have clear boundaries
Hmm.
with that? Because you're spending a lot of time at work if you're an entrepreneur. Just like, she's at home from 5 to 11, he's at work probably 12-hour days at a time. And
Please. Yeah.
yeah,
So much of this starts in your thoughts. So if you
yeah.
allow any thoughts that are not appropriate, the next thing that happens is you're going to share something from your personal life.
Mm,
And then if you can successfully breed with this person, you're going to start feeling physical feelings for them that are going to be out of the blue. And you're going to be like, wait, what? Or you might be, oh, I found my true love. Like, no, no, that's biology. Put some physical distance if that happens to you. Like, run, run, run from that.
mhm,
And so have phone conversations instead of in-person meetings, distance yourself from it. And do not allow, take those thoughts captive. Do not allow any of those things to be possibilities. And as a wife of an entrepreneur, yeah, you need to be winsome and respectful and his biggest fan, his biggest cheerleader.
mhm,
The temptation that most of these women face is to let their fear around the business and the business growth and, oh, what do you mean you're going to hire more people, or whatever it is. There's a lot of fear that entrepreneurial wives have, especially in the beginning. And if you let that spill over into your relationship like that, you're going to make yourself something other than his number one fan. And that's not a good place. That's a non-starter in that relationship. He needs support. You
mhm,
need to be the safest place for him to fall, 100%. And he's going to fail, by the way. Entrepreneurs, people that have successful businesses, the reason they're successful is because they've failed more often than most people and stuck with it. So you
mhm,
have to understand that they're going to learn a lot through trial and error. And it's going to look like the end of the world over and over and over again for a couple of years. And then things are going to take off if it's meant to be. And if it's not, you learn something and you didn't show up in a way that you regret, right?
mhm,
So what also happens is if you have that kind of atmosphere in the home and she's supportive and she's encouraging and she's taking care of herself, and she's making use of grandparents. I think those are really good tools, by the way. Grandparents Most of the time they love hanging out with their children, their grandchildren. Um, so if she's doing all of those things, then she can have the energy to have everybody over from the office, you know, every couple months and make herself a presence and be visible and be seen and be the wife that is encouraging to her husband, right? And so there's a presence there. Sometimes these office affairs happen because of what's not happening at home,
Right.
right? The man is lonely and a lot of times it just happens, quote, by accident. But I've talked to a lot of these guys. They're, it just happens, they say.
Mm,
And what that means is that there were issues in the marriage, like all the time. I hear the same thing. There's issues in the marriage. Nobody's dealing with any of it. Or if they are, it's just through complaint. Nobody knows what to do to fix it. And then somebody at work is positive,
yep.
is affirming. And
Mhm.
most of the time, she's not even as pretty as his wife is. Like, usually people are astonished at the women men pick to have
Mhm.
affairs with. Uh,
Yeah.
and there's a reason for that because all the good ones are taken, you know. So
Yeah. There's
yeah,
that.
the questionable moral ladies out there, I suppose. If you're one of them, stop it. That's some other man's or some other woman's husband. Yeah, God doesn't like that. You got to stay out of that. The point is though that you have to really work at this. You have to plan it. You have to put effort towards it because if you don't plan, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail basically.
Yep. Yep. Agree 100%. So, what I heard is you have to basically be the cheerleader for your entrepreneurial spouse and make sure you reserve that spot for you as much as possible. And when he wins, you're gonna win too. And he'll be able to look over and say, we did it together, versus you fought me the whole way, kind of thing. So
Yep,
that's good stuff. The last point, I think you kind of alluded to it, is being a safe space for your spouse and kind of making sure you connect and being vulnerable at least a few times a week. So the things where he's afraid, the places where he's scared, the places where he's unsure, you want him coming to you for that. You don't want to be another burden or thing on his list
right.
necessarily. But you want to be the person that he comes to whenever, yeah, he wants to share his deepest, fear or secret.
As long as you can handle that well, like if you've got the capacity for it.
Hmm.
But if he tells you, I'm so worried I'm not going to make payroll this week, I think I need to cut my salary and not take an income this week, and you lose your ever-loving mind at him over it, you'll shut him down and he won't ever talk to you about that stuff again. So being with him in it means it's not your problem, it's still his problem, even if it affects you. So
Hmm.
having an emotional outburst is the most non-helpful thing to do. Asking him, wow, or saying, validating first, that's got to be so difficult. Oh my gosh, what's that like for you? And then he'll be more honest about what's going on with him. And then saying to him, what are you going to do? And even if he says, I don't know, it's like, okay, well, you know what? I believe in you. I know you're going to get this sorted. Do you have people that know more about this kind of stuff than you do that you can go to? And he might be like, I haven't thought about that. So just you're not supposed to solve his problems. Running a business, 95% of businesses fail in the first 2 years. 95% fail in the first 2 years. 85% of those fail before year 7. So this person has taken on this astronomically difficult task. And
Hmm.
the only way they're going to be successful is if they stay in the game. That's the thing. If they stay in the game and they can learn and improve. So if you're a discouraging force in that space, if you're like, I don't know why I married this person, I didn't sign up for this. Yeah, that may be true, but guess what? God knew what was going to happen, and that's what he gave you. toughen up, Buttercup. That's how it goes. Like, let's get some grit as women and link arms to sort this out properly. And if you need coaching and support in that space, get some. Don't do this by yourself. You're not supposed to ride this horse alone, and you're not supposed to bring your fears about his business to him because he doesn't need that from you. He needs someone to tell him, I believe in you. You're going to get this sorted. You'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the one I've seen entrepreneurs that have survived in spite of not having a wife that's been a cheerleader. And boy, has it been rough. And I think, how much more could they have done if they'd have been encouraged?
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
running $4 million businesses 3 years in, and they've got staff and stuff like that. It's like that could have been 10 or 20, but her voice, and even so, he still persevered. That's astonishing. Good job, dude. You know, it's really common because we're fearful and we think, well, I need to share my fear. No, you don't. No, no, not in that space. Don't share your fear with the man who's running the thing. Share your fear with somebody wiser than you, a wife of an entrepreneur that's been at it for a while, some older, wiser lady that'll help you get through that because you do not want to be the anchor that drags down his energy. He needs all of that to be successful. And he will be. And the reason he's doing that is because he's got a calling from the Lord,
Yeah.
and he wants to please you. He wants to buy you all the things and take you on all the trips. And when you start getting success in that space, when he starts bringing home a paycheck that's worthy and wonderful, you say, hey, we're going to celebrate by hiring a housekeeper. She's going to come every other week so that I can continue to support you like this.
Yeah. No, I like that deal. Okay. That's great stuff. So I hope that was helpful for you. Let's move into our next segment. This is the question of the day, and this is where we pull questions from our clients and we discuss them on the show. And usually it's something you've either been through yourself or know someone else, or you might go through in the future. So one client writes, what is your view on marriage counseling? Is it helpful or not? How is therapy or counseling different from coaching? And then I'm going to throw a second part into this, something we often encounter at Greater Impact, and also, we've heard happens in therapy, which is, how do you avoid going in with the mindset of that you married the wrong person? So,
Uh,
yeah, that happens way more often than it should.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, it totally does. It's so funny. Like, who hasn't thought that? And I,
right?
I just want to normalize that for a second. You did marry the wrong person. All of us married the wrong person. We married the best version of ourselves that we were when we were trying to attract somebody and keep them. And then we get married and we stop trying because we got married. That's how that works. And it happens to everybody. And people still think, well, I'm going to create this dream or whatever, but that's usually the girls. The men are like, nope, check the box, won the wife, I'm on to other things. And that's what happens. So navigating that is certainly a challenge. But, to your point around the first part of the question, which I've forgotten what that was. What is that? Oh, counseling, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, so I'm not a fan. And I speak from personal experience with that.
Hmm.
Most of the people that come to us have been through numbers of counselors. And I have personal experience having been to numbers of counselors with couples coaching, or I'm sorry, couples counseling, couples therapy.
Hmm.
Um, Most everyone employs this problem of the week method,
Hmm.
where you bring things in and you talk about what your spouse did and said, and it is absolutely humiliating for men. That's not going to solve anything or make anything better. Matter of fact, it usually poisons the well so much that they don't want to get help further after that. And usually they give up and leave. The difference between counseling and therapy and coaching is we don't do that to you. There is absolutely no utility, none whatsoever, in bringing something negative that happened this week to the counseling office to poke around in any way, because that happened. And then you're talking about it in front of the person that it happened with, instead of working out what was going on for you
Mhm.
and then having them work out what was going on for them. But doing that together, that formula has yet to work very well.
Mhm.
Um, the other problem I have with it is that most counseling has a lack of confidentiality agreement. So what that means is most counselors tell you up front, if you bring up something in here, if we do a one-on-one or whatever, I'm not going to keep that separate. If it comes up, I might share that with your spouse. I won't mean to probably, but it might happen. And we have coaching is different. It's 100% confidentiality. So that means that we're dealing with real issues.
Mm.
Okay. So if somebody has a shopping or porn addiction and they want to sort that out with the Lord, they can get the support and the help that they need in that space without having to out themselves to their spouse. If they're dealing with, in case of the entrepreneurs, if you have somebody that's thinking about things that they shouldn't be thinking about with their HR manager, for example. um, telling your spouse that in a counseling session with a therapist, probably not going to build trust,
Right.
right? But
Mhm.
working that out in terms of a one-on-one in a coaching situation, it's like, okay, who do you want to be instead here? And we allow the Lord to heal the stuff that's causing this in the history, through listening and healing prayer. You don't even have to say anything to us. We don't even need to know. The therapeutic aspect of that is real, whether any of our coaches know about it or not. It just happens.
Mhm.
So for a counselor to have to know, for the other spouse to have to know, none of that's useful. So, and you think about this, if somebody has an affair, and the most common thing that they tell you is that you have to be transparent about and answer any of the questions. Some of these women, and it's usually women that are, the receivers of the affair, not always for sure, but this is
Mhm.
the majority of what we see.
And
Uh,
by the way, the HR manager was married also.
yeah, hello. So two families blown up there.
Hmm. Yeah.
Did you see that Coldplay had an announcement that they're going to have a non-video section?
I didn't see that part.
Yeah,
Oh gosh.
yeah, my word. Anyway, um, that's not the solution, people. Like, no, I think we should have that kiss cam everywhere, like stop
Hmm.
it. Yeah. No, the point is that when you have those things going on, you want to have a safe environment where you can move forward from them.
Hmm. Hmm.
And in affairs, sometimes the wife will ask questions like, well, did you do it in our house? And because the husband's been coached that he's supposed to answer all of her questions honestly, he'll say, yeah. And she'll be like, well, where? And well, in the shower and on the couch and in the kitchen. Now, every time she goes in the shower, in the kitchen and on the couch, she sees all sorts of things that she can imagine that are 10 times worse than what actually happened, but probably not in that case. But, you know,
Hmm.
it's not useful. You think the enemy's going to have a good time with that? Of course.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not suggesting you hide things, but I am saying there are ways of dealing with so many of these things that before they get out of hand, before somebody has an affair, um, that prevent destruction, because
Hmm.
that's what's happening. The enemy's prowling around looking for somebody to devour, and he's going to go for whoever's open to that. So, anyway, yeah, we want to have an environment that's safe to grow in, and that's why we're doing coaching. Um, that's why we
Hmm.
offer that. There are times when therapy is useful. I refer people to therapists.
Hmm.
I have a handful of therapists that are licensed in multiple states that I refer people to, and they are very specific people, because too often the therapist encourages towards divorce. And I want to believe that it's because they have good motives and they want to help this person feel successful. But I think in reality, they don't know how to fix it. And they also get to make money for an additional 2 to 3 years after this person's life has been destroyed. And it is their whole life that gets destroyed
Yeah.
when divorce happens. They need therapy for years. So often, anyway. So I'm not a fan. So hopefully I don't get sued over saying that. But
Yeah.
we're big fans of coaching. It's a much safer environment and it's forward moving.
Yeah. And the end result isn't necessarily more coaching. You actually might become a coach instead of needing the coaching.
Right?
We're not here to profit off of you. We're gonna put you to use if
Well,
you're
yeah,
willing.
we do have people that join us in ministry, absolutely. But I tell everybody that we sign up. My goal is to get rid of you. I
Yeah.
love you, but we want to see you change in 6 months. Boom, boom, boom. Have a nice life. Go do something wonderful with it.
Yeah. That's the best outcome.
I think.
All right. So what will you do with the information you have? We invite you to check out our website again and also check out the next episode where we discuss more topics like this. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.